longer have the interest of the people, they have the interest of the corporate bodies they regulate. But if you want to go into those topics, there was a US Senate hearing that Fauci was at earlier this year. I think it was February or so, where he was asked point blank about the social distancing guidelines. And he said 6 feet, 7 feet, 5 feet. We had a hunch basically that this would reduce the spread, so we wanted to encourage distancing, but 6 feet specifically, no, that wasn't rooted in any specific study or data or science. That
All right.
wasn't
So
an
what's
exact
why
quote. I don't
I'm
have
not
it in
sure.
front of me, but
All
this
right,
is
but
from,
that's
you can look it up. You can
yeah,
look it up.
I got you, but that's not really a problem. At that point, yeah, it really was a guessing game. But it was like, yeah, 6 feet wasn't really rooted in science, but yeah, you should socially distance.
But
Yeah, I mean, but like I don't. But they recommended the 6 feet because people were still trying to figure out what was going on.
right,
But
but it
like, I
was
don't think that's a problem.
right,
What?
right. But like, you got to understand from the people who are kind of distrustful, like from our point of view, we had science like weaponized against us. That like, you listen to the experts, and these people have looked over this with a fine tooth comb. And what it basically was an admission of guilt of basically just bullshitting us. In that same hearing, they play a tape from a phone call that Fauci had with another individual before a lot of the vaccine mandates. I can basically direct quote this one because it's so scary and it's like imprinted in my mind, where he's like, "It is scientifically proven that when you make it hard in people's life, when you say, if, hey, you want to work at Walmart or you want to work at Amazon, you got to get vaccinated, people will lose their ideological bullshit." And it's something like that. And they played this tape over the hearing. And listen, I don't want to make the conversation about this because I don't know how much I believe a lot of this stuff. I just think it raised question marks in my head. And this isn't the point that I'm voting for Trump. But if you do want kind of more like actual proof of the ivermectin studies, I encourage you to look into The Truth About Anthony Fauci, a book written by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in 2020. The reason he got, within 48 hours of the Biden administration taking office, silenced and taken off of Facebook and Twitter for a lot of the news that he was sharing.
I mean, like
If I could just real quickly, 900 references in this book. He never got sued. It speaks to the revelations during the AIDS epidemic where that Fauci reigned over in the 70s and 80s. It goes very deep into COVID, and it
okay.
is a
Here's the thing.
damning testimony.
Here's the thing. If the thing about what we know about when it comes to Facebook and social media, a lot of misinformation gets spread on those things. And one thing about Facebook, one thing about Meta and Twitter, they all need to get broken up. I've always said that the big tech companies need to get broken up. The issue that has been shown even years before is that we have done surveys and studies, and it's been shown that one of the big drivers of social divide and one of the big drivers of misinformation and paranoia comes from social media. And they do that. They protect these pages that are basically rage bait. It's been shown that these social media platforms protect the rage bait profiles because it keeps people on the site and they get more ad revenue. You see what I'm saying? Like the thing about regulation and capitalism is that capitalism does not care about people; it cares about profit. So, like Facebook, especially, Facebook has been known to have misinformation spread, especially on the Myanmar site, on the Myanmar part of Facebook. And Facebook in Myanmar, they spread a lot of misinformation about Rohingya Muslims, and now there's a genocide going on Rohingya Muslims because Facebook refused to regulate the misinformation, completely refused to,
Should
because they
moms
hold
and
on, because they knew that they would get more ad revenue in Myanmar if they just run those fake ads. Do you see what I'm saying? So this becomes a problem. Yeah, I understand. Zuckerberg writing that letter to Congress saying, "Oh, the Biden administration told me to take this, that, and down, this, that, and the third down." It's like if you're spreading misinformation, it's gonna become a danger to society. But he doesn't care about that because it makes him money.
Volsi. These were moms in Arizona who were complaining about the mask mandate in their children's schools that were getting their posts taken down. These were private DM messages between people. It was the Hunter Biden story, dude, that got silenced off all of these apps. It's really bad.
If
It
it's
what it like
if it's
No, no,
misinformation,
no.
why would it not
But the
get
thing
get?
is we look we
I
it
still
can't,
saw
it
Hunter
turned out to be
Biden.
true.
I
It
still
turned out to
found
be true.
the thing is I still found Hunter Biden stuff on Facebook. I was on Facebook during that time. I saw Hunter Biden stuff all the time.
And it got discredited as Russian disinformation
Yeah, it
during
was
the election
misinformation.
cycle.
Yeah, it was.
It wasn't. It's true. That's what Zuckerberg is saying in his letter.
What was true?
That he worked at Burisma and collected checks for 160 grand a month. That he has
So he had a job. That was the
pornography
big
and
thing. He had
drug. Listen, he worked in Burisma in Ukraine. What are we
so
involved in right now?
in the Ukraine war. But so
He
what?
collected a check from an energy provider at 160K a month for
So
years when he never had any experience in the energy industry in his life.
so
Connections to Joe Biden. And
no, he's just
there's more private
so
business
hold
dealings,
hold
like
on. So
10%,
his son.
10% for the big man.
Wait,
Do you
hold on.
not know this topic at all?
Let me make sure. Let me make sure. So the entire thing was that his son worked for some energy company over there,
There's
and he
several
do,
more.
and he does coke.
There's emails between China where he says 10% for the big man, which his informants, his kind of handlers have admitted is Joe Biden.
When was this verified?
It's not verified. They
Yeah,
won't.
exactly.
It's not. But listen, Zuckerberg validated this story
Zuckerberg
through the
validated
release of this letter.
right. Because it came from Zuckerberg, who has a vested interest in making sure that RageBait stays on his site for more ad revenue. You don't see the
I don't see
conflict
the
there.
connect. I don't see the.
You don't see the
conflict.
connection?
Walk
Hold
me
on,
through
hold
it.
on. Listen to what I'm saying. Mark Zuck, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, et cetera, they all protect rage bait content, and we know they do. They protect rage bait content because it keeps you on the site, and they can send you more They can send more ads to you and collect more ad revenue if they keep you on the
Zuckerberg
site.
gave $400
So,
million to the Biden campaign, dude.
I don't care. So
Yeah,
if
of course you don't.
that doesn't matter.
Yes, it does.
What matters? No,
It's
it doesn't matter. The
everything.
reason, no,
I
no, it
don't
doesn't.
care
The
about
reason
this
why,
circular
reasoning that
you're able to walk yourself through.
the reason
Those
why
are the
it,
facts.
the reason why it does not matter is because big tech companies or people who are CEOs, they'll give money to whoever would advantage them. So if Zuckerberg felt that Biden would advantage him, he's gonna give money to him. If he feels that Trump is gonna advantage him, he's gonna give money to him. These people, they don't care about that
Did
shit.
he give money to Trump?
I don't know.
He didn't. Okay. Why would he not? Why would he be releasing this letter now and not endorsing Kamala?
It's probably because it's
What's the
toxic.
most logical explanation for that?
Wait, so did he endorse Kamala now?
No, he didn't.
Okay, who did he endorse?
No one.
He endorsed no one. Okay, but he put out this letter against the Kamala Biden administration. Correct?
Exactly.
All right. What is the Biden Kamala administration? Is the Trump administration? Are they talking about breaking up Facebook and everything like that? Breaking up Meta, breaking up the big tech companies?
They're talking about breaking up Google and the big tech companies. Yes.
Who the
JD
Biden?
Vance was talking about this on the Tim Dillon podcast yesterday.
You mean like what? Like how? What's her name? The one that went for president last time. I forgot her name.
Elizabeth Warren.
Elizabeth Warren. Like how she was
Yeah.
a few years ago.
Yeah,
So JD Vance wants to break up the big tech companies.
he does.
All right, and he said this.
He did. You can watch the Tim Dillon podcast. Google specifically was what he was talking about in the podcast.
Google, but not Meta.
He didn't bring up Meta specifically, but what he talks about is the direct involvement. It's kind of like when we were talking about the health agencies earlier, right? All the big ag and big food and big pharma companies are just the health agencies are just puppets for those companies. In the same way, when we talk about free speech, a lot of those big tech companies that force rage bait and stuff like that, they are just puppets for the regulators who want to stop misinformation and kind of control the rhetoric and culture. And, that's where Elon comes in with his whole free speech debate. And I think that's a topic we should talk about. But I think what we don't want
That's not even a
is
free speech
specific.
issue. But
The thing, hey,
when
real
when it
quickly,
comes to
real quickly.
hold on,
The
because
thing we
you're
don't,
going
the
on,
thing
you're
we,
kind of yapping, bro. But
real
like
quickly,
when,
it's really important. It's
go
really
ahead.
important. The thing we don't want is the government in bed with these companies and creating monopolistic environments for them to squash competitors and become massive gigatron companies.
Yeah,
And that's
when I look up JD Vance and tech companies, it says here that
Tim
that
Dillon,
tech.
dude. It's the Tim
Hold on,
Dillon podcast
right,
yesterday.
I got you, I got you. When I look up JD Vance and tech companies, there's actually a lot of sources here that JD Vance got endorsed by a lot of tech companies, tech billionaires. He has a whole bunch of ties to them. So you sure he wants to break up their companies?
So it's actually a really good question. When Trump first brought JD Vance to the ticket, I hated it. I texted all my liberal friends how it was a disgrace. I thought it was a prop up from this billionaire guy who owns PayPal named Peter Thiel, who very much is a venture capital, big money guy, kind of similar to Elon, who through his influence and maybe kind of control over the Trump campaign got JD Vance into a seat. And JD Vance has kind of this interesting story where it's like very humble roots, but then went to Yale Law and went in the private sector and did venture capital. And venture capitalists get a bad rep, and deservedly so. A lot of them are responsible for shipping a lot of jobs overseas. They're money guys who crunch the numbers. They're the Shark Tank guys like Mark Cuban in your party. And but here's the deal. So I don't know where he stands on everything, but his words that he is speaking in podcasts recently, I've been watching all of his podcasts recently with Theo Vaughn and with Tim Dillon. And the words he is speaking is economic populism. It is what Americans want to hear. It's what's good for the middle class and the lower class. And he is legitimately talking about those things. He's talking about getting BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard out of the housing market by changing the tax code to make it unprofitable for them to buy houses and rent it out to us, because they have a 900 credit rating score where we have a 670. So our interest rate payments are 10%, where BlackRock's is 2%. So what if we change the code where our interest rates
Right.
get
Okay.
lower and we
I
make
get
it
that.
so high
I
for
could agree
them?
with all that.
Republicans
got you.
are the ones that are
But
bringing
what?
these answers to the table right now. JD Vance's specifically.
All right, well, like I see here, I agree with with JD Vance here about breaking up Alphabet. All right, so like I do see it here that he said he wants to break up Google, break up Alphabet. That is something that that needs to happen. And you said he also wants to use antitrust to break up BlackRock and all those other companies. Correct?
Yes.
These were all things that were bought by progressives. So you're saying that now Republicans are embracing progressive ideas?
I think I would, yes, agree with that. What I think it mainly is this MAGA party is fully Volsy, dude. Like, at least from my perspective, my opinion, the Republicans are the anti-establishment party and the Democrats are the
They're not.
establishment party.
They're not. They're not. There's way the Republicans get funded by and have all the establishment in their parties. They're
What's
really not.
what's one metric?
One metric of what?
Like, just give me one metric that you're basing that opinion off of.
That they're the establishment party?
Yes, please. And don't use 2004 or 2008 or Bush's Republican Party, because this is a very different Republican Party. How is Trump's MAGA party the pro-establishment party? Like,
Because
one
everyone that
metric.
they hired and because everyone that they hired into their party was part of the establishment. And their tax plan advantages the establishment.
You're talking about the lower corporate tax rate.
That advantages the establishment.
I think, I studied economics in college. I think that's a nuanced conversation, right? Like, Trump implemented the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act in 2017. And then the interesting thing, Democrats never want to talk about this, but in 2018, our tax revenues exceeded the trailing 4 years, 2016, 2015, 2017, 2014. Like, and we implemented all these tax cuts, and they weren't just for billionaires, they were also for the middle class. I was working a job at the time, I felt them. So what's really interesting is you lower this corporate tax rate and there's job booms, there's the largest growth in real wages at the aggregate over a 3-year time under any president in the modern era. And of course, COVID happened, and that's its own conversation. So I think, yeah, I think Trump's argument for his 2016 through 2020 presidency is that he was a president for all Americans and that everyone got better during his presidency. That's probably what he'd say. I do think that he ran on being anti deep state and he wasn't able to fulfill that. And I think he's fully putting himself with all the people who have that same interest into his 2024 campaign to make sure that he
But
doesn't repeat those mistakes, even though it was a successful presidency, as I said.
when we say anti deep state, he didn't do anything about that. There was what even is the deep state? And not only that, what were the tax revenues for what year you said that we exceeded our tax revenues? You said 2018,
2018,
2019,
I believe so. Yeah,
2018.
2018.
What were the tax revenues in 2018?
I don't know these numbers off the top of my head. I mean,
All right, I'll
Tim
just
Scott Tim Scott talked about this at the RNC convention in 2020.
all right, cool. But the thing is, what even is the deep state, and how is Trump trying to get rid of it? Because from what we've seen from Agenda 47 and Project 2025, he's actually creating one if Project 2025 comes through.
So yeah, I'm not really a believer that Trump is running on Project 2025. Specifically, there's been people in his transition team who have said that he said the Project 2025 guys are a bunch of assholes. So I think Agenda 47 is a good source to look at. I also think the people that
But that's
are
basically
around.
Project 2025, isn't it? I mean, okay, in 2018, the tax revenues were about 3.3 trillion. We're way over that right now.
Did I say 2023 or 2024? I said the trailing 4 years.
The trailing 4 years, but bro, it always goes up. That's just the trajectory. It always goes up. Trajectory is
You
always up when it comes to tax revenue, unless
you
like something
wouldn't
major happens.
believe that's the case with the Democrats' rhetoric around these tax cuts.
What do you mean?
If we're not taxing billionaires as much and taking from their pockets, and we implement this whole new, tax system that's going to favor them and make sure that they can get off the hook and not pay their fair share, then wouldn't we expect reduction in tax revenue?
No, not really. Yeah, because that depends on like jobs, how many people are born, how many people come into the country. Depends on a lot.
Okay, man. You wanted to talk about the deep state. Frankly, I don't have a perfect answer for what the deep state is. My answer currently is any person who's making unelected bureaucrats and oligarchs who make decisions on behalf of the US government, who are more behind the curtains and aren't the people that we see day to day and aren't the Kamala Harrises that we elect into the presidency. So it's the CIA that writes Kamala Harris's speeches, and it's the CIA that undercut the peace agreements with Russia in the late 90s between Bill Clinton and Vladimir Putin. And it's the health agencies, it's the Raytheon, Boeing board heads who are the people who were in Trump's administration and left the administration and went and joined the boards. People largely Larry Fink. It's the World Economic Forum.
So essentially, companies and like defense contractors and intelligence agencies. You're saying that's the deep state?
Big food, big ag, big pharma. Yeah, pretty much any
Okay.
the top of any major industry and any major corporation.
So okay,
Larry Fink is the
okay, so
perfect
corporation. All
example of
right,
who the
hold
deep
on.
state is.
So corporations and intelligence agencies are what the deep state is. Is that what you're saying?
Three letter agencies and corporations. I think that's fair. Yeah.
Okay,
My
okay,
understanding, at least.
okay. Trump is gonna do absolutely nothing about that.
Dude, we've talked, like, we've already talked about like several different issues where he's trying to tackle this head on. Like, let's go back to the 800 chemicals thing. Like Republicans are the ones talking about that. Democrats have no plan. They haven't talked about it during their
Okay,
campaign
what
one
Republicans are talking
time.
about this? You only bought up RFK, and Democrats have always been for regulation, have always been for antitrust, have always been for all these things. So it's like, is this in Agenda 47 where it says we're going to ban these 800 chemicals, or what is it? Because all we've heard from Trump's campaign is still exactly what I said before, cussing people out, insults, and saying, "Yeah, vote for me. I'm America" at his rallies. Like that's really it.
It's in his Madison Square Garden appearance today. It's in the podcast on Joe Rogan this weekend. It's in every single event that RFK does for the movement. It's in every single event that Callie and Casey Means do for the movement. It is like the single most defining thing that the Republican Party is running on and the health sphere
Right
right
now,
now.
they're running on breaking up the health agencies.
100% they are.
Okay,
Yes.
if you break up the health agencies, do you know what proper problems we're going to have?
I'm not saying break up the health agencies. I'm saying reform them, to be more clear.
Reform them. Okay, reform them to do exactly what? Because what we've seen from Project 2025 is that all they're gonna do is put in Trump loyalists.
I think
Is that what it's trying to do?
I think that's your opinion. I think at the beginning of this campaign, if people could ever imagine that Elon and Joe Rogan at the end of the day and RFK and Tulsi and all these people coming over to the other side of the aisle to kind of have this team of rivals. It's very much like Abraham Lincoln, one of the best presidents of all time, who in his cabinet and in his team had a team of rivals who could challenge each other and encourage free speech. And that
But
goes
these
back
ain't
to one of
rivals. These ain't rivals, man.
they
These all
they
those
have
people agreed
massive
before.
disagreements on core issues.
Like what?
Like Trump talks about at the Al Smith dinner, we're gonna let RFK go crazy for a little while, gonna let him do his thing, and then I may have to reel him back in.
That doesn't
He
really answer the
worries me a
question, bro.
little. If I could, real quick, he worries
What
me
did
a
they
little bit
disagree
with
with?
the
Because
oil.
slant for years now, ever since he bought Twitter, and so
Elon's
has Tulsi, and
child
so has
is
RFK,
trans.
and he doesn't speak to her.
What do you think compelled that breakup? Him becoming super far right? He clearly hasn't always been this way. So you're just
Yeah,
saying
he clearly
now?
has always been that way. And once he became super far right, once he started promoting Nazi propaganda on Twitter, and once he started promoting anti-trans stuff, him and his daughter don't speak anymore.
Why? What made Elon get that way?
I don't know the nigga.
What would compel someone to put some like
He
he's
probably
putting
was
his
always a
neck out
racist.
there?
He's a child of apartheid South Africa. He's probably always a racist.
So MAGA is the party of racists. We're still on that trope for the last 9 years.
Yeah. Have you
Okay.
seen the people come up and say that Haitians eat dogs and cats, which is a racist lie? And I've explained several times why it's racist.
Volsi, are there racists in the Democratic Party?
Of course they are.
And are there racists in the Republican Party?
Yep.
So why is it so important to only fixate on the racist of the Republican Party and call the Republican Party racist when there are racists in both parties? Just because it's more pronounced in the Republican Party?
It's more pronounced, and Republicans actually put in policies that affect my group,
Specifically what? Because when I
like
think
stop and frisk, like cutting down on education, like cutting Medicare, et cetera, et cetera.
so if we want to talk about education, during Trump's presidency was the largest expansion of school choice ever during your presidency. He also
Which is a
instituted
bad thing.
opportunity zones. School choice is an amazing thing, dude. Oh man.
Now and opportunity zones. All I did was cause an increase in just
Let's stay on school choice.
all opportunity zones did was rise gentrification. How is that a
Okay,
good thing?
let's talk about school choice.
All right. So all school choice does is take government money and puts it into religious schools. Charter schools aren't even well regulated, bro. Under school choice, you get a voucher to go to whatever school, right? Those vouchers could get spent in whatever school that you choose, and most of it goes to those religious private schools, or it could go to a charter school. But charter schools have issues in themselves because they're not well regulated. There are tons of charter schools that are basically a lick for people who set them up. You know that, right? Like charter schools are not well regulated. Like I could start a charter school right now in my living room and never take kids to teach kids anything. I'll always do like field trips every other day. Like this was like John Oliver reported on this 2 years ago. Charter schools are not well regulated. I understand the need for charter schools, and I even know that there are stats that show
School
that a
choice
lot of
is
black
way more
students.
than
I
charter
don't. I
schools
even know
do.
that. I do also know that there's a lot of stats out there that show that black students actually do better at black run charter schools. I don't even disagree with that. But charter schools as a whole, and school choice as a whole, was us using vouchers to go to religious private schools. I don't agree with that. Why not just
Volsi,
fix the schools we have now?
Volsi. Do you think if there's a school that's underperforming and it's been underperforming for years and their literacy rate is something like 12% as a high school and it's just very low performing. Do you trying to institute policy at a federal level that says more funds for that school and like trying to reform it and just talking more high level about instituting change, but that school continues to run and probably be bad? Or is it better to say, hey, this school isn't working for the students, there should be a better option, schools that aren't working cease to exist and replace it with something, have something better?
Yeah, yeah, sure. We should reform and replace that school.
Okay, let me ask you a separate question. Who is better at deciding the educational outcomes of children? The parents of those children or the government?
Neither,
Elaborate.
because parents don't. A lot of times, parents don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
If you had to choose one, because this is the issue. Republicans want this decision in the hands of the parents and the family and the student. Democrats want the issue in the hands of the Department of Education and the government.
It's not even about that, bro. It's not about
We know
you.
about
Hold on,
redlining.
wait. Listen, let me finish. It's not really about the government is gonna decide which education is best for your kids. It's the fact of the matter is that as a nation, we need to all have some sort of standard of what kids are going to learn because they're going to be citizens one day.
agree in policies. Like I was just talking to my friend in New Jersey, somewhat blue state, so they can use it for an easel to paint, or they can use it for extracurricular music classes. It's just more autonomy and control for the parents. I think that's better personally, Volsi.
Why don't we just fix the problem with filtration? Why don't we fix those issues?
And I see school choice as the way to fix those issues
It
because
doesn't. All it does is let the school fail.
I think I'm very, this is like kind of my sweet spot, Volsi. The
But
school
okay, here's
choice.
here's my question. Here's my question. You brought up everything with redlining, right? How does
Yes.
school choice fix the issue of redlining?
Yes, by allowing parents in those areas to go to any school of their choice instead of being destitute for the public school that they were zoned for, that was probably the poorest funded school in that area, instead saying, hey, you can go here to this public school, or hey, you can go here to this religious school, or hey, you can go here to this charter, or hey, you can go here to this other high academic private.
So
But the
basically,
choice is
just
in the hands of the parents.
so
and
so
the
basically
child.
just get rid of the zoning.
Yes.
I could actually agree with getting rid of the zoning. I don't agree with sending funds to a religious school.
It has nothing to do with sending funds to religious school. I think where
You
like
don't get
I
school
don't
vouchers in school choice.
so the vouchers could certainly be used for someone who would have gone to a public school who says them and their family, hey, actually this Jesuit school is a better fit, and this is going to be a better choice for
And
our
that's what I don't
child.
agree with.
So they move it there. Yeah, but that, I mean, I can understand that point of view, but I don't think it's a massive threat. The only threat that occurs is just if parents see that as a better option, in which case public schools need to perform better to attract students.
In order
Instead
to
of
perform better, we have to fix the issue of redlining that you brought up. They need to
right,
have
right,
the
right.
actual.
And
They,
here's how you
they need
fix
to have
that.
actual correct. No. But the thing is, the way that you're saying is not going to fix that.
No, no,
It
no.
doesn't
But here's
correct the.
here's
Hold on,
here's
wait.
how
It doesn't.
actually
It doesn't. Hold on,
fixes it.
wait. Listen. It doesn't correct the funding. It doesn't correct the inexperienced teachers. It doesn't correct how the administration is set up in those schools. It doesn't fix any
totally
of that.
does. It
No,
totally
it doesn't.
does, dude.
All it,
No,
it but
here's
it
why.
doesn't.
Here's
The
why.
reason
Here's
why.
why.
Hold on, wait. No. It doesn't, because how is giving someone a voucher to go to another school fix the funding in that school?
Here's why. Because it may not fix the funding, I think, if that's your specific question, but here's what happened. There have been many areas in the country that have disproportionately higher funding, and it doesn't mean that the outcomes for the like the way that children learn is we need massive overhaul of the system, and the current problem is these it's a disservice how we treat our educators and the whole system that's top down from the Department of Education. What school choice would allow, when you're empowering parents and children and students to make the decisions for themselves, is an actual marketplace environment. This gets back to capitalism, which is kind of a Republican ideal, but just stay with me because it's good. When you have a marketplace environment, schools and education systems have to evolve and adapt to meet the market and to have appeal and to attract students. So if you're a poor, crappy school that's underperforming for your students, maybe you shouldn't be a school anymore. But you know what will happen, and it's happened in my community in Tallahassee, Florida, where schools are evolving and becoming the magnet performing arts school or becoming the IB school. These schools that just 10 years ago were terrible because it was either don't be a school anymore or adapt and meet the moment. And so what did they do? They attracted people specifically for sports, or they carved out a specific niche because they could be excellent at one thing, even though they
Okay,
weren't
cool.
excellent at
So,
everything.
so,
Marketplace environments
but
create good
wait.
outcomes.
I
The
got you,
current system does not create
bro. Hold
marketplace
on, bro.
environment.
Hold on. Listen to what I'm saying. So what these schools change is that they got the funding to actually put programs in that would have been better for the students, because that money didn't come from nowhere.
What changes is they start operating like an actual business that's serving a
They didn't
solution.
serve as a business. You can't run You can't run government things as a business because schools are not for profit, bro.
Where they
If you
have
run, hold on,
they have an
listen.
incentive. They have an incentive.
If you run things for profit, you're gonna run into a lot of issues, especially if it's a government system, because
Ivor,
governments cannot be run for profit. Because at the end of the day,
you're
at the end
catching
of the
me
day,
in my
hold on, wait,
words.
at
I
the end of
didn't
the day, hold
actually
on.
mean that. I did. Let's not go down this segue because I didn't actually mean that I want this privatization corporate education system. I'm just saying there should be incentives where bad schools cease to exist and good skills get rewarded and good educators get rewarded and bad educators have disincentives. That's not how our
Hold on,
education system works now.
what I'm saying is that the schools that you're bringing up, they actually got funding, and they use that funding to actually improve the facilities and do things into these schools. What I'm saying is that that's the type of change that we need, because at the end of the day, these schools are still funded by tax revenue of the area, and maybe we shouldn't do that anymore. You see what I'm saying? So if we
Republicans are
don't
the
do that,
ones that are preaching that,
but
bro.
no, they're not.
They are, dude.
No,
School choice is the anti-redlining solution.
but it's not. The anti-redlining solution is to not have redlining. It's to fund these schools
Are
not through
Democrats
property tax.
talking about that?
It's to fund these schools not through property taxes,
Why does
but
Gavin
through other
Newsom's kid
ways.
get why does Gavin Newsom's kid get to go to school during COVID, but everyone else's kid in public schools in California has to do it through Zoom?
I don't know, because he's rich.
What is the Democratic stance on this? Are they talking about this issue as passionately as you are?
Yes. The Black Congressional Caucus has always talked about fixing our education system by fixing the redlining issue, by not funding school through taxes
I'll say this, just last
or
point,
property
but
taxes.
last point before we leave the topic of school choice. I see Ivorion in the chat said a couple teachers from Florida debunked this. All I want to say is here's a piece of evidence for you. It's an article written in the Wall Street Journal by an author, William Richard Maddox. He wrote about the data from African American mothers in the state of Florida in the gubernatorial governor's race between Ron DeSantis and Andrew Gillum in 2020. Andrew Gillum was a Democratic black candidate. Ron DeSantis is the white guy that we know him to be Republican candidate. What's really interesting is Ron DeSantis ran a mail campaign during that 2020 governor's race where he sent individual mail to all black mothers in the state of Florida. What that mail stated is the school choice vouchers that you use and allow your child to go to any school of their choice came from my administration, and Andrew Gillum threatens to remove school choice from the state of Florida. In previous governor's races after the 1960s, a Republican candidate had never exceeded 8% in the black female audience. You think about 2020 and what was going on with BLM. Ron DeSantis is a guy who called Andrew Gillum a monkey on mainstream media. Ron DeSantis is a guy who's constantly claimed to be a racist. And nonetheless, during that governor's race, he won 17% of the black female vote in the state of Florida. And the largest piece of evidence that points to that is the mothers who didn't want to lose their children's right for school choice to go to any school they want to. So we can talk about all of this in theory. I do, but it's just like listen to the that's a piece of evidence to me. It's like listen to the voices who are actually seeing how this policy is affecting their community. And yeah, it's not 50%, it's not 60%. Republicans have a lot of area to grow in being a party for all people. But this policy is working, and I largely think Republicans are on a better side of history on this topic than Democrats, who are just kind of more
You there?
teachers poorly.
All right, but the thing is, again, the issue with these schools failing is that the fact that they're funded through property taxes, which comes from a red from the redlining policies.
Right.
All the vouchers do is just allow kids to go to another school. Cool, they go to another school. Redlining still is not fixed, bro. Redlining still doesn't fix the redlining is still there. The schools being funded through taxes is still there. I could agree with you if we just got rid of the zoning rule. You have to go to the school that you're zoned for. I could agree with you if you get rid of that. But most people are still gonna go to the same school. But what would fix these schools in these areas is just like how you pointed out. that those other schools, they started to fix themselves. They started to use the funding to do other things. That's what needs to happen. They need to audit these schools, audit the administration, and said that some of this money needs to go to actually getting new books. Need to hire more tenured teachers. Need to give more, magnet programs, et cetera, et cetera. These are things that need to happen, because if you just give vouchers to go to different schools, you haven't really fixed the issue.
Yeah, I mean, I think what was cool about what you just said is it sounds like we found some common ground, even though we can come at different. For me, I think just the main thing we're arguing about is like whether the government is in a better position to spend our dollars or our parents in a better position to spend our dollars and what's going to create a better use of funds. And I think people that are Republican minded or more libertarian minded, we're just a little bit more distrustful of the government, where all of our taxes go. And we go to the DMV and we wait in line for 2.5 hours and we think in our heads, man, the DMV, this is the three-letter agency they decide to show us. This is the one that's public facing. This is the one I can walk into, and yet it's so unbelievably inefficient. So I think when we talk about education and people who are more kind of like pro free market ideologies, they say we need to create incentives for education systems to actually provide education to their learners. And if they're not meeting on that mission, they should have repercussions. And I think the current system that's a little bit more government controlled, those same kind of levers aren't really in control. And we can talk about more money, but then it's like, man, are they really going to use it as efficiently as just the parents? So I
Here's
think we're
one
just kind
thing.
of circular talking because we come at
Here's one thing.
ideologically two different
I
perspectives
got you.
on it.
Here's one thing I would say about when people talk about government inefficiency. Have you ever worked in customer service for any large corporation?
Ticketing, customer service, yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, I've worked in customer service for large corporations. You want to talk about inefficiency, work in customer service for any large corporation, you would see how wasteful and inefficient that this shit is. All right, so it's not just an issue with like the government is inefficient. It's more of an issue of bureaucracy, and the thing is that we don't know how things always work. Like for example, I used to work in social services, and people used to always ask me, you know, how come I can't get $800 in food stamps and this person does get $800 in food stamps? That's because your income is taken into consideration. That's because this is taken into consideration, et cetera, et cetera. Y'all don't have the same type of money. You don't have two kids. She does, et cetera, et cetera. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of times we just don't know how a lot of things are supposed to work. You feel me? And I get that. It seems that this should be more streamlined. We should get rid of some of bureaucracy, and I could agree with that. There's some bureaucracy that makes things move slowly and stuff like that. But I don't think that the issue is just to make everything a capitalist market, because markets don't always work for everything.
Yeah, I don't think markets work for everything. I think there's a role for government. I just think the current kind of like go- government bureaucratic class works as a wet blanket on the economy. I don't think they have our best interest at hearts. I think they're the minds behind getting us involved in a lot of these foreign wars, maybe the minds behind this immigration crisis, where it's like I don't think that Biden and Kamala like had malicious intent, but it's just like what's going on here. And that kind of goes back to just like, you asked about the deep state, and it's just like, do we really think that Biden is running all levers of the government right now? And Kamala's out campaigning. So, like, who's running things? And, like, that's kind of just the perfect answer for, like, the deep state, you know? The deep state's running things right now. And I would just rather, I'm not happy with the current system. And Kamala, to me, just seems like a continuation of the status quo. And I'd rather buck the system. And that's why when you talk about we don't know whether market based systems or government systems are better, it's like, it goes back to the point we were arguing about earlier, where Trump is the anti establishment candidate. And you kind of proved it a little bit in your answer by speaking from the point of view of someone who was defending larger government.
I'm not defending. I'm not defending larger government. I do want the government to run efficiently. But the thing is, as a nation as big as ours, we're going to have larger governments than other nations. You know what I'm saying? That's just something that's gonna happen because things need to run. But at the end of the day, like when you say that Trump is the anti-establishment candidate, I don't see that. He's literally from the establishment.
They tried to assassinate him.
So
They tried to impeach him.
who's they?
They've defamed him for 9 years. Dude, look up
Who's
Larry.
they?
Look up
Who's they?
Larry.
Who's they?
Look up Larry Fink. Look up Larry Fink on your
I don't
laptop.
care who Larry Fink is.
Dude,
Who's
you said
they?
who's they. You said who is they.
So Larry
I'm
Fink is the
giving
one
you-
who set. Larry Fink is the one who set up all the assassinations.
I don't think he's the sole source, but I think he's someone at the top of the chain of command, potentially.
Larry Fink.
Look up Larry Fink.
Okay, let's look up Larry Fink.
You're gonna go on Google. It's not gonna say
The
anything bad
CEO
about
of
him.
BlackRock.
But just keep his name in your mind over the next couple of years. We'll see.
The CEO of BlackRock wants to kill the president.
Don't forget, dude. Both of the assassination attempts, both of the individuals have been in commercials for BlackRock.
No, they haven't.
Volsi.
Oh Christ Almighty!
It's not misinformation, dude.
All right, bro. We've been here for like an hour and a half, man. I gotta go ahead and move on to the next person. But I do
Appreciate you.
you. All right.
That's true though.
All right, y'all. I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here, man. I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. I do appreciate you all being here. I do appreciate all the likes and the comments. But I've been on for at least 2 hours. I've lost my my Wi-Fi at least twice, so I gotta go ahead and get out of here and edit these videos. All right, y'all. So my all right, y'all. So this is gonna be there's a replay of all this on my YouTube. Go ahead, go to YouTube Volsi Thoughts. I'm gonna go ahead and post some debate highlights. Hopefully I could go ahead and get some good ones because a lot of these were like an hour and a half long. So I'm not sure if any of these gonna get posted anytime soon. But I do appreciate you all being here. Go ahead and go over to Justin's live. I think Justin is live right now. Deconstruction Zone. Go ahead and go over him to right now, and we'll talk more there. All right, y'all. I do appreciate you all being